people? It is your good friend Chad Marco here again with another awesome anime review for you guys. Oh man, it's so good to be back. Summer is over and I've been watching a couple different anime, particularly some Gundam and Ashita Nojo. But today, as you might have already noticed, I'm going to be reviewing Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Oh yeah. Now this was a good one. Now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Gundam series, but it's an anime series that dates back way to like the 70s, and there are a lot of different Gundam series. Like, it's not just like one anime series. It's like you got the original Mobile Suit Gundam, you got Mobile Suit Gundam ZZ, you got Mobile Suit Gundam Zeta, you got Mobile Suit Gundam Victory Gundam, you got Zero Gundam, you got G Gundam, you got Tri-Age Gundam, it's Gundam Wing. It's a lot of different Gundam series, to say the least, like from series to mangas to novelizations to movies to OVAs. It is a humongous franchise. And I was just I was reading the Gundam Wikipedia page just to get like some extra information on the series, because it's been a while since I've been into Gundam. Like, watching IBO is the first time I've seen anything Gundam in like quite a while. So I just wanted to go back and refresh my memory. And I didn't know, but it says on the Wikipedia page that when Gundam came out, when it first came out, it was canceled early. But because of the toys that followed, that really skyrocketed its popularity, and it's been one of the most influential, popular mech anime series of pretty much ever since then. So now I've seen quite a bit of Gundam. I've seen let me see, I think I've seen the first 3 series. I've seen a couple of the OVAs, like the 08th unit. I mean the 08, what was it, the 8th MS team. I saw the Thunderbolt movie. I've seen G Gundam, Zero, a couple of them, but watching IBO, this is the first time I've seen Gundam in quite a while. And man, I'm just going to tell you, like, this is probably one of the best Gundams I've seen out of the ones that I've seen, and I've seen quite a few, not all of them, but I've seen at least about 6 or 7 Gundam series so far, and out of all of them, this is probably one of the better ones, to be sure. But I'm just gonna go over, just talk about like what Gundam is really quick before I talk about IBO in particular. Now, now hold up, do me a big favor and let me run to the kitchen and get some water. It's gonna take a whole minute. Okay, now I didn't know this, but I was hanging out on the mech board on 4chan, and they were talking about the difference between real robot and super robot. I didn't know there was a distinction. Now, let me try to explain it now. Super robot is basically like, it's like a robot anime series where the robots are just very, very unrealistic. Like, they're almost like superheroes in of themselves. Like, that would be shows like Get a Robo, or especially like Gurren Lagann. Like, Gurren Lagann is like the most super Saiyan robot, if anything. Because, just for example, with Gurren Lagann, you have like just the fact that it can produce a fucking drill that's 100 times bigger than the actual mech itself out of fucking nothing, and how it can transform into a mech that's as big as the galaxy and then use galaxies as like frisbees and shit. Like, that's super robot. It's basically like any type of robot anime where the robots are just crazy unrealistic, just damn near just pure fantasy. But real robot it are the anime series where the robots are a little bit more down to earth, where they're still unrealistic because of course we don't have like fucking humanoid like two-legged robots and shit, but like you at least have to like fuel them. like these robots actually need fuel, and you got to refill their ammunition. You have to like, they have to actually carry their weapons to battle. And even though you might have a couple mechs that are a class above the rest, like you still need like it's rare that you'll have like just one robot that's doing everything. Like it's more like military war focused mech shows, and that's the difference between like real robot and super robot. And Gundam falls more along on the real spectrum. Like I said, real in quotes, because you know you're in fucking space with a beam sword and a two-legged robot, but still, like they at least put some some amount of effort into it to make it seem more realistic. You know, it's not like it doesn't feel like the main character is some superhero and his robot is invincible. Like as strong as the Gundam can be, it'll still be somewhat vulnerable. You like, and it still needs the assistance of like lesser mechs to help it out. And now Gundam in general is of course a mech anime series, and usually it's about war and typically like just two factions going to war with one another. And on one side you'll have the protagonist, and usually it'll be like a teenager from like 14 or a little bit older, and somehow they'll get their hands on the Gundam, which in usual fashion it'll be like Gundam in the Gundam universe is usually like just the mech that's a class above the other mechs. Like it's special, but not like Gurren Lagann spell. Like it's not like that overpowered. Like they're strong. Like they're always usually a class above like the standard issue mech, like a fucking Zaku, but they're not invincible. But they're usually the driving plot device of every Gundam series. Like just having this robot that's just a little bit better than most other robots is now in the hands of some teenager or some pilot, and usually is like they're like the ace pilot of the quote unquote good guys, or who know whatever faction or force they happen to be a part of. And just for example, with the original Gundam series, it was the Earth Federation going against the Principality of Zeon. And the main character in that was Amuro Ray. I believe he was like 14, and somehow got his hand on the Gundam, and you know it was just pretty much just all out war from there. And that's really the gist of a lot of Gundam series. Is somehow the Gundam falls into the hands of the good guys, and they use it to go to war with a larger, more dominant force within space. But yeah, that's a general breakdown of what Gundam is. You know, just war, military, mech, anime, etc., etc. But let me talk about IBO now. Okay. Now, Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. It was released in 2015, produced by Sunrise, and it's about these orphans, obviously, who work for this company on Mars. They're like a security company where they pilot mechs and they do jobs for people that enlist them. And usually the job entails piloting either some type of like tank like mech, or a more like a Gundam-esque mech. Not necessarily a Gundam, even though they have a Gundam. But they have like, I call them the fucking lesser mechs, like the fucking, you know, little $2 mechs. But yeah, it's basically like these orphans. They work for this security company that does jobs for people, and these orphans, they're being somewhat, well, I ain't gonna say somewhat, they're being very mistreated by their adult superiors. Let's put it that way. And even in one of the first battles that you see, it's obvious that the adults are sort of using these orphans as sort of cannon fodder, just kind of putting them out on the front lines so that, you know, they can get killed off or, you know, do most of the dirty work while they're safe, you know, kind of sitting on in, you know, off where there's not a lot of conflict or battle. So yeah, and at the time where the anime actually starts, this company, they get a job to escort a girl named Cordelia Bernstein. And once they take on this job, this puts them into the crosshairs of Gjallarhorn. Now, Gjallarhorn is pretty much what Zeon was in the original Gundam. Like Gjallarhorn is essentially the bad guys. It's Nazi Germany, just put it that way. They're like the biggest military force in space. They control everything from Mars to you know, they got their hands in Earth and all that. So they're pretty much the bad guys. And when CGS decides to agree to escort Cordelia Bernstein to Earth from Mars, like I said, that puts, now they're officially an enemy of Gjallarhorn. So basically conflict breaks out on Mars where CGS is going against Gjallarhorn in a little like small battle. And during this battle, now this is where the main characters kick in. One of the orphans, his name is Mika, and at the time, and Mika as well as Orga. Now these two are basically the main characters of IBO, Mika and Orga. They're both orphans, and they're not brothers per se, but they're so close, they go so way back that they have such a deep relationship that they're basically like brothers. And like I said, like I mentioned earlier, the orphans are being mistreated and thrown on the front lines and shit. But Orga, realizing this, he gets kind of an idea. So when the next conflict comes up and they're attacked by Gjallarhorn, he orchestrates it so that Mika is able to pilot the Gundam that they've been using as a power source for all these years, instead of like basically unhooking it as a power source and instead using it to actually fight. And Mika pilots it, and then Orga, he does like this thing where he lures the enemy towards the adults who are kind of running away while the orphans are getting shot up and killed and shit. And so that's basically like the conflict that just starts it all. And of course, after like they managed to repel Gjallarhorn, surprisingly, because again, Gjallarhorn, like these guys are, you know, the most dominant force in space and all that. And of course, afterwards, they're punished by their superiors or whatnot. But Orga, being a rebellious young bastard, he decides to essentially take over CGS. So he talks to his fellow brothers, his orphans, his fellow military mates, or whatever you want to call them. And they all pretty much decide, hey, we're going to kill these motherfuckers. We're going to kill our superiors, and we're taking this shit over because we're tired of being mistreated. We're tired of being thrown on the front lines. We're tired of these motherfuckers. Let's kill them. And that's exactly what they do. They, when it's lunchtime, they put some sleep shit in the food, some type of sleep medicine, and their superiors fall asleep, and when they wake up, it's just like, hey, we taking this shit over. And Mika, he kills the head boss of CGS, and from there, Orga, Mika, and the other orphans, they take over CGS, and they rename it to Tekadon. So now the orphans have come up. They've gone from being cannon fodder to being the boss of their own security company. Now, of course, as I said earlier, their whole job was to escort Cordelia Bernstein. So they stick to this because they still need to make money. They still need a job. So they stay on that course of escorting Cordelia Bernstein to Earth. But still, because of the earlier conflict with Gallahorn. In fact, during that conflict, one of Gallahorn's lieutenants was killed by Mika. So now there's like it's on now. Like from this point on, it's basically heavy beef between Gallahorn and Tekkadan. And I didn't mention this, but the Gundam that Mika is using is named Barbatos. I don't like that name. I just gotta be honest. It could have been a cooler name, but all right, it's a Gundam. It's actually a cool looking Gundam. It looks very like feral, like that Gundam looks wild, like an animal almost. I like the design. I just don't like the name. But as I mentioned earlier, of course, Gundams are always a class above most other mechs in the Gundam series. Now, because of course, alongside Mika are the other orphans or his brothers or Tekkadan members, what have you. And some of them pilot mechs as well, but they're not as strong as the Gundam. They're pretty much just like backup for him. But he's always the vanguard, the ace pilot, the one on the front lines, like catching the most bodies. And so even though Gallahorn is a much more powerful force than Tekkadan, because they have the Gundam, that gives them the edge to be able to win these skirmishes that they find themselves in with Gallahorn along the way. But still, Tekkadan is still just a little bit too small, a little bit too vulnerable, so they end up teaming up with this group called Teiwis. Someone correct me on that, but yeah, they team up with now Teiwis is like I'm good, like they're kind of a they're a powerful group, but kind of sketchy at the same time. It's kind of ran like a mob, somewhat. Even when you look at like the whole process of Orga and Tekkadan being kind of sworn in as brothers of Teiwis, the whole process is like super like Yakuza, gangsta, mafia, Goodfellas type shit. So, but they basically have to enter into this partnership because Tekkadan is so weak and vulnerable, and they've made an enemy of Gallahorn. So by teaming up with Teiwis, they're able to kind of strengthen their group somewhat and have some bit of protection, and it kind of makes them a little bit more official in space and whatnot. Now there's something else I have to talk about too. There's because in any type of anime, you gotta have like that power up factor, you gotta have that power up, that Super Saiyan, that thing that makes you just a cut above the rest. And of course in Gundam, typically it's just the actual Gundam itself, but in Iron Blooded Orphans, they took it a step further, and they have something called the I know I'm gonna pronounce this super wrong, but I think it's the Ayala Vinyata system. But it's essentially like this dangerous surgery that they perform, and it has to be performed on kids. And this is a big reason why there are a lot of like small children or child soldiers in this particular Gundam, because this procedure can only be done on children who haven't fully developed yet. And what it does is it kind of creates like this neural link between the pilot and the robot itself. And it essentially it improves your reaction time, your spatial awareness. It just overall makes you a better pilot, but it's a very dangerous procedure. It like at least half of the a good number of the people who had the surgery performed on them actually died. And if they didn't die, then sometimes they would become crippled. And even if the surgery is a success, if you push the system too far, it can still cripple you. And that ends up becoming a factor later on for Mika, the main character, when he has to actually push the Ayala Vinyata system, to its full potential. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's kind of like the whole, like, that's the power up factor of this particular anime. This whole thing. And Mika in particular, he's had the surgery done not once, not twice, but 3 motherfucking times. Like, this is a cold-blooded little kid here. Like, this dude right here is powered up to the fucking gills. I mean, this shit is like the fucking steroids or the PEDs of this particular Gundam series. But I'm just talking a little bit more about the bad guys in this Gundam, Galahorn. Of course, like I said earlier, they're like the biggest military governing force within space at this particular time. And the thing about it is, like, they're not so, like, just overtly evil. It's not like you just see Galahorn like, oh, these are the bad guys right here. It's kind of strange, and I think this is kind of similar to other Gundam series. And what I like about it is that, like, as far as like who's actually good and bad, it's not entirely black and white. I mean, obviously, the antagonist, you can find like it'll usually be like certain people in power that are doing like nefarious bad things, but it's not like the whole of Galahorn is just this evil entity, like just killing babies and raping women and shit. It's really just more like its structure is kind of counterintuitive to the liberty and happiness of certain people within space, like on Mars and on Earth and etc. And yeah, just key people who are just like assholes, like dipshits and shit like that, and they just make it, like they just make things worse for the average person, or civilians or what have you. And even thinking back, like because I'm thinking back to the key figures within Galahorn who were the enemies of Tekadon, and I look back now and it's like, man, like a lot of those guys weren't even like bad people. Like they were actually kind of okay. It's just like a lot of it is really just circumstantial. But moving on, Tekadon, they managed to successfully escort Cordelia Bernstein to Earth, and of course there's like I said, the whole conflict between them and Galahorn just escalates. There's a lot of death, a lot of war, a lot of conflicts, a lot of battles along the way. People die, they meet new people, they get new recruits, they get new mechs and this and that. And by the end of the first half of the series, they've managed to successfully escort Cordelia to Earth, and they become pretty much a prominent figure in space, kind of like really almost feared because of how they managed to go toe to toe with Galahorn and complete their mission. And the second half is pretty much about seeing what happens after Tekadon is more established, and watching it grow, and it gets like new recruits, and there's new inner conflicts and new enemies and just all kinds of like new problems that come with Tekadon sort of becoming like this feared force within space, and they're continuing rivalry with Galahorn. But I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing. I just wanted to give like this, the basic breakdown of what it is. And next, I'm going to talk about the actual characters. I'll be back. Whew, okay, I'm back. Now it's time to talk about the awesome characters of Iron-Blooded Orphans. Now, of course, first of all, there's Mizuki. Man, I swear, like they say it so fast, like Mikazuki. But yeah, Mikazuki, he's the main protagonist of Iron-Blooded Orphans. He's a teenager. I don't think they ever specifically stated his age, but I'm assuming it's anywhere from maybe 14 to 16, somewhere around there, because that's the typical age of the Gundam protagonist. But he is pretty short. Like, I don't know if that's the indication of his youth or if he's just like a manlet. I'm not really sure, but yeah, he's the main character. Now, this kid got some problems. I ain't even gonna lie, bro. Like, this is one of the strangest Gundam protagonists I have seen. I mean, this guy is like, he is cold-blooded as fuck. I mean, this kid is cold. I mean, just this dude is snake-like for real, bruh. But despite that though, despite how cold and calm and stoic he tends to be, you can also tell that, you know, he really loves his Tekadon brothers, you know, the people that he came up with, the people that he started Tekadon with, his friends and the people he fights on the battlefield with, and you know, their family and whatnot. Like, you can tell that he genuinely cares about, you know, the people that he's close with. He just kind of expresses it in a different way. He's more like just really like just 100% focused on being the best Gundam pilot that he can possibly be. I mean, you always see scenes of him like working out, doing push-ups and pull-ups, and you know, getting his body stronger, and or running simulations in the Gundam so he can improve his skills. And for him, everything is about battle. Everything's about war. Like, he's not too affectionate and really not even very emotional either. Just so stoic and calm and almost like socially retarded in a way. I mean, because he can't, like, in the beginning he can't even read or he can't read or write. All he knows is fighting and battle. And the strangest thing about him is his undying loyalty to the other main character, Orga, because, you know, they were both orphans on the street when they were younger. And I don't remember, like, I don't think they ever really like explained like exactly what happened in great detail, but they show like flashbacks where you see Orga was like bleeding and Mika shot somebody, but basically what happened was that Orga somehow had saved Mika from some thugs or something. And ever since then, Mika just felt like he owed his life to Orga. So pretty much whatever Orga says, Mika would do it. I mean, it's not even a question. Like, this dude is the best goon you could ever have. like what I mean, throughout the whole show, is the only thing he would do is what Orga tells him to do. He is just, you know, hey, you want me to kill him? Okay, bang. You want me to do this? Okay, it's done. You know, wait here. Okay, stand. Do a handstand. Hey, I got you, bro. Like, this dude is supremely loyal to Orga. I mean, he's also loyal to the rest of Tekadon, but Orga is pretty much like his handler. Like, Orga is like the master, and he's like the dog. But yeah, and I gotta say, what I like about Mika throughout the whole course of the anime is that they never tried to change him. That's what I like, because I thought, like, initially I was like, okay, this this kid cannot maintain like this attitude, this frame forever. Like, this has to be some type of coping mechanism. This has to be like the result of some serious trauma where he's behaving this way, where he's like he's gonna break. This kid is gonna break down and just be crying and I miss my mom or something. But throughout the whole fucking anime, like that's just who he is. Like that motherfucker is truly just cold as hell, loyal, a dog through and through, for real, bro. And that's why he's probably one of my favorite Gundam protagonists thus far, man, because just how just how cold and calculating he was, man. Just really no nonsense. And like no tears, no complaints. It's just war, bruh. Like you need me in that Gundam, I'm already there, bruh. Like for real. Like that's why I really like Mika. And of course, him being the protagonist, he's one of the best Gundam pilots, in the entire series. If not the best one, now I think about it, he's probably like 1-on-1 full strength. He probably could beat just about everybody else who had showed up in the anime. Maybe in-game Galio, but I don't know. But yeah, I like Mika. Like he's as dense and cold as he is, he's still a likable protagonist. And top flight goon for sure. Now next is Orga. Now Orga is the other main character of Iron Blooded Orphans, and he's the leader of Tekadon. Like he's the one who calls the shots. He's the one who organizes everything. He's the one who makes the plans. He's the one who gives out the orders. He's the one that orchestrated the whole situation where the orphans came together and killed the heads, the boss of CGS, and took it over and turned it into Tekadon. He's the one that kind of just he's the leader. Not quite Kamina. He's like because I kind of got a little bit of a Kamina Simone vibe between Orga and Mika, except Mika's not a bitch at all, and Orga is not really supremely confident, which is kind of obvious. But yeah, Orga, as far as now, he doesn't actually pilot a mobile suit. He doesn't pilot a Gundam or a mech or anything. Now he does like ride along on those I forgot what they called them, but they're basically like just like land tanks with like I guess it shoots like missiles and machine guns or whatever. But he doesn't actually pilot a mobile suit. He's the one that just gives the order. Like he kind of makes the battle plans and decides like what major decisions that Tekadon is gonna do. But much like Mika, he's supremely loyal to his Tekadon brothers. But unlike Mika, he's more emotional, more human. like you can tell he actually has feelings. And you gotta say he's a pretty good tactician as far as like creating creating a game plan or a strategy to get them, to get them out of trouble or to overcome any type of conflict. I mean, he's willing to take just about any risk just to, keep everybody alive and to, complete whatever job Tekadon has agreed to take on. But at the same time, there are various moments throughout the series where you can see that Orga is self-doubting and more worried than he lets on to everyone else. Like he's kind of like playing this role of like, I know what I'm doing, but he doesn't know it. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Like, they're all still pretty much teenagers and shit. And so him being the boss, he has to, carry that weight, carry that load, and put on a brave face. But deep down, there like several moments throughout where you see that, he's really kind of, he's just as scared as everybody else. It's just that he's a leader, so he has to. His job is pretty much to act like he knows what he's doing and to not worry, while everybody else puts their ass on the line to get them to the next step. But excuse me. Oh man, I just had lunch. Well, dinner. But yeah, now I would say overall he's a likable character, but I think towards the end he made some decisions that made me not like him as much. And I'm not mad at that, because the thing that I like about this Gundam is that it does kind of subvert your expectations as far as like what people are gonna do or what's gonna happen. But yeah, it was just certain things that Orga did where he might have hesitated or made certain decisions, and I just wasn't feeling it. But I'd say he's okay, but he's definitely like a more flawed character than even I expected. But like, and like, I would say, now I'm gonna talk about this character later, but I would say someone like Eugene had a better understanding of what they were doing than Orga did. At certain times, and that I just found that kind of weird. But still, that's what I like about this, is that it doesn't always, characters don't always do what you expect them to do or what you want them to do. And I'll probably talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, that's Orga. And then there's Akihiro. People call him Space Guts because his visual appearance is very similar to Guts from Berserk. He's big, muscular, always training, and also his attitude, like just, ready for battle, ready for war, whatnot, top flight goon for sure. But Akihiro is like the muscle of the group. Now, of course, Mika is the ace pilot, and Akihiro is probably like he's probably like the second best after a certain point, because at first he's not really that great of a pilot, but through dedication and training he becomes better and better. But yeah, he's like the muscle of the group, especially when he gets the Gushin. That's his mobile suit. Yeah, that's really a big power up for him. But early on, as far as like his character, or more in particular, like his loyalty to the group, like he was more like when Orga had planned to take over CGS and turn it into Tekadon, Akihiro like wasn't really like thrilled about it. It wasn't like, oh yeah, cool. It was just like, whatever, like who's ever the leader, I'm there. So that kind of leads me to believe that Akihiro was more to himself, like just whatever happens. But I think along the way, as after Tekadon form and they, experience all these battles together, and their bond grows, he definitely becomes another like just blood in, blood out member. Like, I'm down with the clique 100%. Top flight goon. I love my brothers, etc., etc. But yeah, just pretty much just, big tough guy. He's the muscle of the group. Likable overall. Has some very good fights and shit. Okay. And next is Kudelia Bernstein. I was gonna say she's like the female love interest of this, but they're not really. Cause her and Mika had like a weird thing, but it didn't really go anywhere. But she's definitely more important than just being a female love interest, though. At least I can say that about her. She's actually an important part of, this Gundam. But she's basically like the daughter of an important figure, like she's the daughter of an important political figure. I forgot what was it, on Earth or somewhere, but yeah, she's pretty much like royalty in a way, and she's taken an interest in just the problems going on throughout space, and the like underprivileged children and people being mistreated and shit like that. And even though she has like this rich, wealthy background, she it almost seems like it almost seems like out of guilt, she feels like she has to make herself a part of what's going on and try to do anything she can to kind of remedy these situations. And that's how she ends up running into Mika, Orga, and the other child soldiers on Mars, because she wants to kind of step into their world and see what they're going through, and kind of show that hey, I see you as human beings, even though I'm rich as fuck and don't gotta be here. But yeah, now for sure her heart is in the right place. It's just that because of her background, being filthy rich, living a comfortable lifestyle, and being a very important young lady, she's kind of disconnected, kind of naive about their reality. She doesn't always understand their decision making and why they're so willing to just toss themselves into battle and risk their lives. But over the course of time, even she really becomes like an important person to Tekadon. Not only do they escort her to Earth, but once she gets established on Earth and creates a foundation where she's able to help people, she remains sort of their confidant, sort of someone that they can go to, because there's just like she's more of like a political figure that can actually like make things happen, through the proper channels, the legal way, instead of just hopping in a fucking mech and blowing shit up. So she's definitely an important part of what's going on. Not just, I'm glad that she wasn't just like fucking eye candy or a love interest. Like, she was actually pretty important, but cool chick. All right, nothing special to me. Then there's Biscuit. Biscuit is he's like the balance of Tekadon. Like, he balances things out, because when everybody else is saying go, he's saying hold up. Like, he's the one that's like, maybe we should do things this way, or maybe we ought to not just be so rash about this. We should calm down, or maybe we shouldn't just try to take the shortest, most violent, bloodiest path to get to where we're trying to go. And of course, nobody really listens to him, but that's pretty much his role there. Is just he's pretty much like Orga's, like, Mika is Orga's sword. Biscuit is like Orga's right hand man. Like, this is my guy where I can talk to him about the actual like big decisions that I'm making, and he can give me some intelligent input, a more like a different perspective on things. And that's his role there. Just kind of being, kind of balancing out all the crazy shit, all the, all the fucking wildness of these untamed orphans and child soldiers. Just, they're just ready to fight at a moment's notice. Like, he's more calm, cool, and collected about things, and, more careful and cautious, and, all right. And, then you have Eugene, another important figure within Tekadon, one of the OG members. I compared Orga to Kamina earlier. It's shades of Kamina there, like, about 2 or 3 shades. But I would say if Orga is Kamina, then Eugene would be Keaton. Like he's the one that kind of lives in Orga's shadow a little bit. Just, you know, if Orga's not around, then Eugene is going to try to play that role of being the confident leader, and I know what I'm doing, and we're going to do this, and just obviously just trying to be like Orga, but just playing his part pretty much. And during the second half of the series, he actually becomes the deputy boss. So pretty much playing into what he was already doing, during the first half. And I don't think he he might have piloted a mobile suit. I don't know. I don't remember now, but I know for sure that he piloted one of the big assault ships that actually carries the crew and the Gundams and mobile suits and weapons and whatnot. Because I believe they have 2 of them. But yeah, cool character. All right, Orga clone. Poor man's Orga. And then you have Shino, and he's kind of like Akihiro. Like he's just one of the the better pilots that work for Tekadon. He's kind of he's an eccentric kind of guy, like kind of gregarious and boastful. Yeah, just fun, joyful, always smiling and shit like that. Like he's like the fun, carefree guy out of the bunch, but he's also a damn good pilot and a loyal member of the team. Now, I'm gonna talk about some of the Gjallarhorn people real fast. Now, first you have McGillis Farid. He's like the anti-villain. Like he's the now I don't know how much Gundam you've actually watched, but there are certain they're almost like memes within the Gundams, like the Gundam universe, where there are just these certain like reoccurring themes. Like you'll have there'll be like an idiot pilot, like Eok, and you also have like a Char clone. Now Char was a character from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. He was a part of Zeon, but he was also working with or he would assist the if I remember correctly, I might be fucking this up, but if I remember correctly, like he was with Zeon, but he was kind of doing his own thing. Like he was trying to take shit over and manipulate people, and like he was like that character is kind of the person within the group that's trying to make his own thing happen, or trying to increase his own power or standing. And in different Gundam series, there have been like Char clones, and they'll usually like have blonde hair, and they'll kind of become a rival of the main character, and they'll wear like a mask. That's how you know they're the Char clone, and that's what McGillis is in Iron-Blooded Orphans. He's pretty much the Char clone, where he's a member of Gjallarhorn, but he's not really loyal to them. He's trying to do his own thing, and he has ulterior motives that he's trying to accomplish for himself. And now his background, he was an ass slave. Oh man, I've been waiting to say that. He was an ass slave, a butt boy, if you would. But he's an orphan, kind of like the crew members of Tekadon, except he was adopted by a member of a high-ranking member of Gjallarhorn. Now, this member was actually a pedophile. Like he would go to these brothels and fuck little boys, like literally. And McGillis was, not having any parents or a home. He worked at this brothel, and I'm assuming that's how he met his stepfather, who pretty much adopted him so he could fuck him in the ass full time. Like, this is like literally, like, this is for real. This is backstory. this is backstory. He was an ass slave. But of course, you know, you're a high ranking member of Gallahorn. You can't just have this little boy in your house that you fucking in the ass. So he kind of lied and said that McGillis was his illegitimate son, when in reality, he was his butt boy. He was his you know, and of course, you know, being a fucking ass slave to a high ranking member of Gallahorn, that fucks with you a little bit. So of course, you know, he's being raised as an ass slave, but also as this guy's illegitimate son. And so he becomes obsessed with power because his whole life he's been abused. He's been getting beat up. He's been a butt boy. He got adopted only to continue being a butt boy by by a high-ranking member of the most powerful military force in space. And so he has this complex about power where he just feels like he has to gain more power and increase his standing. So pretty much all the while that he's masquerading as, you know, this guy's illegitimate son, you know, he's increasing his knowledge. You know, he's improving his body. He's increasing his standing with the other, you know, people within Gallahorn, and his status rises like really quick. Like he becomes a very prominent member of Gallahorn. Because he has this obsession with, you know, power and, you know, trying to put himself in a powerful position. And, this whole thing has pretty much made him like really almost as like cold blooded like Mika, but except McGee, except he doesn't really have like a sense of loyalty that Mika does. You know, Mika is loyal to Tekadon. You know, the Tekadon crew, like, they're loyal to that group, but McGillis isn't really loyal to Gallahorn for obvious reasons. So even though he fits in with Gallahorn, like, he's made quote unquote friends, and he has high standing, and he's about to be married to like this little girl that's a part of another important family within Gallahorn. The whole time he's just trying to take over Gallahorn. Like, for him, it's all it's a long con. That's all it is for him. It's a big game. I don't give a fuck about none of y'all. I'm just trying to take this shit over. Y'all took me off the streets just to fuck me in the ass. I'm tearing all this shit down. And that's pretty much what McGillis is. And along the way, he ends up kind of striking up a secret deal with Tekadon, because he realizes that Tekadon is it's starting to become a force to be reckoned with within space. And he feels like, you know, because his whole plan is pretty much to take over Gallahorn himself. And so he feels like, you know, if I become friends with Tekadon, or if I align myself, or, you know, make an agreement with Tekadon, you know, I can use them to, you know, further my own plans. And that's pretty much what he is. He's the, you know, he's with Gallahorn, but at the same time, he's against them. And he's trying to use Tekadon to help him so he can take over Gallahorn. But yeah, he's definitely one of the best pilots in the series, especially when he gets the his final mobile suit called Bale. I mean, man, like his last battle was like crazy good. So, but yeah, like he's one of the stronger pilots, but that's what you would expect from a fucking the fucking shark clone of the series. But and man, like he's a on one hand, it's like he's an asshole, bro. Like this, like the shit that he did, like the shit that he did to the people that thought that he was their friend. I mean, just unforgivable. Like, just man, like this dude really like was willing to betray and do anything just to put himself in a position of power. But at the same time, I was like, they made you an ass slave. So, it's pretty much fair game from there. Like, if you in that situation, you probably would have tear the whole building down too. So, even though he's just really an awful person, still you understand why he is the way that he is and why he's so vengeful against Gjallarhorn and so obsessed with power. I think he's a great character. Not really a likable character because he's such an asshole and he's so self-centered and selfish. But at the same time, I think that, he has more depth to him than a lot of other characters within the show. But yeah. Then there's Galio. Now, Galio is the, quote unquote, best friend of McGillis, Farid. They grew up together as, children of Gjallarhorn, children of prominent members of Gjallarhorn. They played together, went to school together, learned to pilot mobile suits together, pretty much became like buddy cops within Gjallarhorn. And he really sees McGillis as being like his best friend, like just truly and honestly his best friend. But things happen. some things happen, and that friendship, as I say, they ain't friends no more. But oddly enough, and I wasn't expecting this at all, but he ends up becoming one of the most dangerous enemies of I don't know. I don't think he, man. Now I think I don't think he ever really like raised his sword. Oh no, I think he did fight Tekadon maybe a little bit, but he mostly has like a vendetta against McGillis because McGillis ends up betraying him during the second half, and that causes obvious fucking problems. But I think at first, as a character, he didn't really have too much depth when he's first introduced, but I think after the betrayal and seeing the climax of his relationship with McGillis, I think along the way, like that's really where his character depth comes from. Like after the betrayal and all that, you really like, and I never really expected it, but it's like, man, like you kind of sympathize for the guy. And you understand why he feels the way that he feels. I mean, obviously, you get betrayed by someone you think is your best friend. It'll make you feel some type of way. But, yeah, he ends up being one of the main antagonists of Iron-Blooded Orphans. At first, not so great of a pilot, just kind of okay. But towards the end, fucking demon. Straight up. Okay. Then there's Ein. Now, he's another member of Gjallarhorn. Now, he hates Gjallarhorn because Mika had killed his lieutenant. I think his name was, what was his name? Zink? Some old dude. Mika killed some old dude, and that was Ein's lieutenant. And ever since then, Ein is really, like, he's passionate about fucking up Tekadon because they killed his lieutenant. And, like Galio, he ends up becoming one of the main rivals or antagonists for Tekadon. Not much to say as far as like his personality. Like he's kind of green as far as being a pilot, but his desire to take revenge for his lieutenant is what drives him. And really, I mean, he goes to psychotic lengths to get revenge against Tekadon. But like Galio, he becomes more of a threat towards the end. So yeah, there's that. Then there's Rustall Ilion. This guy, he's the big boss. Like, he's the main antagonist of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. This guy's the boss. This guy is the Frieza. This guy, he's the Toguro. He's the every other main bad anime guy I can't think of right now. But yeah, he's pretty much the main antagonist of this Gundam series. And now he's the commander of the biggest fleet of Galahorn. Like he's like to me, I consider him like the fucking god of war. Like, for real. Like, when you see this guy like in battle, I mean, this guy is like a strategic genius. I mean, goddamn. But he's an older guy, probably around like 30, 35. It was like 35. Yeah, he was like 35. And so he's got years of experience. And but yeah, he's the main antagonist of this Gundam series, but he doesn't really appear until like the second half, because that's when the big coup d'etat spurred on by McGillis happens, and that whole thing, and that's when he comes up. But as a character, like his personality, he's pretty much now not like, and this is what I like about him, is that he's not like just, oh, then this guy's a bad guy. Like, oh, this guy evil. Like, it ain't even like that. It's just, he's a military dude. It's just like, I do war shit. Like, this it's not really bad. It's not really good. Like, he's definitely like, it's certain things he did during like the main battle between him and Tekadon that were underhanded, but I mean, it don't even matter, because he was just so smart every step of the way, man. Like this is one antagonist that I had no choice but to respect. I mean, this guy he is a master tactician at war. I mean, just and really, this is a credit to the creators of Iron-Blooded Orphan as well. Like, just to not have like a straightforward, boom, boom, bang, bang, explosion kind of battle. Like, he was actually like really orchestrating shit, like using the media to paint a certain narrative about his side of the battle and Tekadon, and using tricks to use like ban weapons of war and shit. I mean, this guy was just war genius, man. And like, I'm giving the fucking antagonist more credit than the fucking, well, you'll see why, but yeah, I gotta say, he was a good, like, really a fucking great like antagonist for the series. Like, this guy is legit. He's no joke. It's a lot of characters. Okay. All right. Then there's Eok Kujan. Now, he's the dumbass of this series. I've noticed that within Gundam, like, there's like almost like you might have like a Shark clone. You'll have like a really idiot dumb pilot as well. And that's what he is. Like, he comes from another like prominent family within Galahorn, but he doesn't really have the skill to match his ranking. The people under him are super loyal to him because of who he is and his family name. But like throughout the whole series, like, he just makes a lot of he just does a lot of dumb shit. Like, he's really not that good as far as like in combat, and even his strategic decisions aren't that great. But in a way, I guess you could say he's the comedic relief of the cast. But overall, man, just a fucking dumbass, this dude. Then you have Julieta, which she's another member of Galahorn. She's like Rustle's like right hand girl. Like, she's pretty much dedicated her life to protecting him and trying to be the best pilot that she can be. a pretty important character, but overall, I feel like she was kind of flat. Didn't really, she's kind of, just I want to be strong for Rusto, that whole thing, and she wasn't that well. But yeah, now on to a more cooler character though. Now, like I said earlier, Tekadon, they aligned themselves with this group called Teiwis, whatever, so they could have some extra protection. Hold on, I'm gonna cut this real quick. Okay, now on to cooler characters. Okay, now next is Nazi Turbine. Now he's one of the better characters of Gundam IBO. Like I mentioned earlier, Tekadon, they teamed up with Teiwas, so that they could strengthen their force, or really just for protection, just so they could ally themselves with someone who give them backup and services if needed. More more mobile suit pilots, money, funds, information, routes, etc., etc. And now one of the top members of Teiwas is Nazi Turbine. Now, more specifically, him and Orga have pretty much like a brotherly relationship. He kind of acts as sort of an older brother for Orga, because Orga, even though he's the leader of Tekadon, he's still a teenager, and Turbine, he's older, he's more experienced, and so he acts as sort of his mentor, his older brother. And once Tekadon becomes an official part of the Teiwis family, it's not just like a business transaction. They really treat each other like a family, and so Orga looks at Nazi as like an older brother, and Nazi sees them as like sort of his little brothers and shit like that. And like Orga, he has his own big he has his own big assault ship. He has his own crew and his own fighters and mobile suits and whatnot. Now, the interesting thing about Nazi is that his entire crew is comprised of females. His crew is his harem. This motherfucker is a pimp. For real, like, this guy is pimped out for real. But his whole thing was that, he would, having his own like space business or whatever, he would go from place to place, and he would find girls that were, in bad situations, like, being like mistreated or overworked, and he would bring them into his fold. He would take them in, and they would usually like fall in love with him, and he would make them one of his girlfriends. And with some of them, he would have children with them. And there are some who, I guess, if they were younger, then he would just kind of treat them as like, his daughter or little sister. But the ones who were of age typically became a part of his harem, and you know how that go. But I just thought that was really cool. Like, man, and I'm gonna talk about this more, but man, this Gundam was pretty fucking edgy. Like, it really had some more than suggestive themes. I didn't expect him to take it there, like having like a main character with his own harem. I mean, the way the anime typically even treats like romance, I mean, they'll barely want the fucking main character to kiss somebody, let alone have a character with a whole harem and just bitches on bitches and kids walking around like babies. Like, he got several baby mamas and shit. But yeah. Now, he's not a mobile suit pilot himself. Much like Orga, he just, when it's time for a battle, he pretty much plays the role of the commander. He sits in the commander's seat and just kind of directs, everyone and tells them what they're supposed to do and their game plan and whatnot. And of course, the women in his harem, they have their own mobile suits and they try to protect him and their family and whatnot. But overall, like, yeah, he's a cool character, and I just love the whole aspect of this guy having a fucking harem and they're mobile suit pilots as well. Oh man, like just an awesome character overall. And last but not least is McMurdo Beristain. Now he's the actual leader of Teiwis. He's the leader of that mafia-esque gangster group that Tekadon aligns themselves with. Not a lot that I want to say about him, but the whole time I was kind of just he was a question mark for me from the beginning. Like, I wasn't sure what his intentions were as far as how much he really cared about Tekadon, even though he allowed them to join his group, even though he took them under his wing. I was always kind of skeptical of like his loyalty towards them. But towards the end, you see that, he really is kind of he's a stand-up dude. Like he's a boss. He could be kind of, strict and serious, but at the same time, Tekadon, they were really putting in good work, and as long as you put in good work, like he'll treat you right. So overall, he was just one of the ally characters for Tekadon who had their back through and through. But yeah, now that's all I want to say about the characters. Nice, colorful cast, as you would imagine. Next, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad. Okay. Now, I'm gonna talk about the good first. Of course. Now, first off, Mika caught a fucking body. Man, like when I saw that, that's when I was locked in. Now, let me explain. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the orphans, the child soldiers on Mars who worked for CGS, they got tired of being abused. They got tired of being cannon fodder. So, led by Orga, they decided that they were going to stage a little coup d'etat and that they were going to rebel against the superiors and the leaders of CGS. And they did just that. They put them dudes to sleep, and then, they told them what it was going to be. Now, man, they had the leader tied up on the floor, and then Orga pretty much gave Mika the order and said, you know what to do. Mika pulled out the gun and just said, bow, 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 bow. Shot him dead. And that shit just shocked me, bro. Like, I was not expecting that. And now the thing is, because Gundam, at least the ones that I've seen, they've never been very edgy. I mean, it's a lot of, it's war, it's conflict and battle. So naturally there's a lot of death. I even remember back to the original Mobile Suit Gundam when after a while, Amuro Ray, the main character, being a teenager, he was starting to experience some sort of PTSD from all the people that he killed in combat. But even then, it was war and they were in mobile suits. They died in flaming epic explosions. It wasn't as personal, but this shit was personal. No mobile suit, no tank, no beam saber. It was just, yo, you fucked up and I'm killing your ass. And just boom, it was some gangster ass shit. Just a dark room and Organ sitting there looking like a G and Mika just pulled out the gat. This was some fucking, this was some real mafia shit going on. And when I saw that, I was like, yo, they not playing, bro. And then on top of that, for it to be the main character, this pretty much a child, and just, that let me know right offhand, oh, this gonna be a wild ride, bro. This gonna be crazy. Because normally they wouldn't do something like that. Normally they wouldn't make the main character do something so cold blooded and vicious. even though they pretty much did what they felt like they had to do, it was still like just cold, bro. Like they could have sent the dude off or something. And knows like, we killing your ass. Like, we taking over, but before we do that, we killing your ass. I'm taking your life. That shit was gangster. And, you know, it wasn't just that moment. It was several moments throughout that were just really pushed the boundaries and did so in a way that I just wasn't expecting. Just knowing, like knowing Gundam as I know it, you know, it can be violent, it's war, but still, like, I mean, they really got personal with it on this one. And to put the gun in the hands of the main character, a child or boy, man, like, I don't know, man, like, that shit was just... Even I was like, yeah, like I felt bad. Like I felt like I was in trouble. I was like, oh shit, we should have did that, y'all. Like, you know, like fucking Bishop and Juice or something. Like, it was like, yo, we killed somebody. Like, oh man, but yeah. I just love how dark it gets, man. Like, I really appreciated that because I love dark, edgy, violent, sexy, taboo things, and you know, I straight up admit it, I love shit like that. So when I saw that, I was like, yo, I'm gonna like this shit. Okay, now also I love the bromance. I always love a good bromance, you know, like. Just when guys have such a strong bond with one another that they're willing to fight and die for each other on the battlefield or anywhere else, like, and this really has just strong, like, just lots of bromance, like, and I love that, like those sort of Simone Kamina relationships where it's just like, you know, we're not really family, but we family. And that's what I really liked about this Gundam was how these orphans, these kids, you know, they came together based on of just shared like shared past experiences of being, you know, not having a mom and a dad, and, you know, being mistreated and being child soldiers and risking your life, and, you know, not knowing if you're going to live to see the next day, or not knowing if, you know, your comrade is going to live to see the next day, and, you know, coming together and fighting together in a bond that develops through all that conflict and sharing all those experiences. I think that this Gundam does a great job of portraying that. And you really feel like, I mean, and even though it's a lot like these guys are savage. Like I said, Mika caught a fucking body. Like, as dark as it gets, it's like you still feel like man, like I love this family. Like no matter what they do or what they go through, I just hope they succeed. Like I love their relationship with one another. I love how loyal they are to each other. I want to see these guys succeed. I want to see them win. Like they just did such a good job of making Tekadon a really likable group. And they're likable because of their bond with each other. And that's what I really liked about it. Just how much you just fall in love with the Tekadon crew. Everyone from the mobile suit pilots, from to the fucking the fucking black stinking repair guy. Like, everyone. It's a family, man. And just how tight they are. And, you know, just how ride or die they are for the group. I love that shit. Okay, and last but not least, the ending. Now, after I finished watching it, I went to the mech board on 4chan, and there happened to be a IBO thread. And I got the sense that the ending is somewhat controversial. That because I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to go too into detail. But the ending is kind of it's not what you would expect. Even though I kind of felt it coming, I was like, I got the sense from the beginning that it was gonna end a certain way for Tekadon, and it seemed like in that thread, I at least got the vibe that a lot of people might not have liked the way that it ended, because it was pretty dark. It was pretty dark, pretty dark. Someone had described it as sour lemons. You know, it's really a bitter sweet, like bittersweet ending. Like, I'll put it that way. It's very bitter, but with a little bit of sweet on top. But at the same time, I liked it. Like, even though it didn't end it in an ideal way, I still appreciate it for being different. And again, like, just going against your, like, the viewers' expectations. Even though I kind of expected it, still, like, when it happened, it was like, huh? Like, what? That's it? But I like I said, I appreciate it for what it was. And it was kind of smart too, because the way everything kind of worked out at the end, it was like bad, but also good. And I liked it. I liked that it wasn't the typical, like, ride off into the sunset with your bros kind of ending. That sort of, you know, that sort of typical cliche ending, you know. And yeah. Now, what I don't like, the ending. For real though, like, now, even though I appreciate the ending for not being, like, you know, typical Hollywood happily ever after type of ending, I do feel like, now, what I didn't like about the ending is that I just felt like the final battle was lacking. I feel like they should have did more with the actual final battle, especially with Mika. I feel like he should have gotten a much better final battle. I mean, like, just, you know, like, this is everything I got, Super Saiyan with the Kaioken, third gear, you know, man, like, I didn't get that. I wasn't really feeling the way it ended, especially for Mika. I wanted to see, like, something more similar to how, like his final battle during the first half of the series, like episode 24, 25. Like, I wanted to see something like that, and I didn't get that, you know, from any of the, like, well, Michaela's had a pretty good final battle, but I just felt like, especially with Mika, I was disappointed with his final battle. If they had just fixed that, did that better, then yeah. But that was really the only thing I didn't like about the ending, was the final battle wasn't as good as it could have still ended the same way, but the final battle should have been better. I'll say it that way. Yeah. Also, now this is a small bad, but not enough backstory as far as, like, the origins of Mika and Orga, because throughout the series they show little clips and flashbacks where you see Orga and he's like a kid, and Mika's a kid, and, you know, Mika just killed somebody, and you can kind of tell, like, this is the moment where they kind of became friends, and Mika pledged his loyalty to Orga, but they never really went too into detail about that whole situation and where they really came from. And I was kind of expecting that, and I never got it. Like, that's what I thought was odd. Was like, I felt like there was gonna be a whole episode dedicated to, like, showing Mika's and Orga's background, and instead we get the Michaela's ass slave background. Like, I mean, and man, I gotta mention this real, like, I mean, cause I've watched a lot of, like, anime at this point, and now it's getting kind of old now with the whole, like, rape backstory. Like, why do so many writers go with the rape backstory? Like, you know, I was raped as a kid, you know, I was an ass slave, but, you know, like, I mean, like, Guts, even Griffith, Legato Blue Summers from Trigun, at least in the manga. Hellsing with Alucard. And now this is like, why? What is with that? What is with the rape backstory shit? That I was an ass slave and that's my motivation. Like, that's what I don't get. And man, I just had to bring that up. But I just found it weird that we got more backstory about McGeely's. I hate saying this fucking name. I hate that name, McGeely's. About McGeely's than Orga and Mika. We just see the same flashback over and over again. So that's just a small issue, but yeah. And yeah, that's what I didn't like about it, because I really liked it. So it really wasn't a lot that I didn't like about it. It was just those two small grievances. But it is one more thing I want to talk about though. The dub and the sub, because the version of it that I downloaded, it was dual audio, and I would have to switch over to Japanese audio because I guess the default was English. But every now and then I would check out the English just to see how it sounds. You know, I started off with the dubs, like you know, I was a dub guy back in the day, and so I'm always willing to check it out just to see how it is, and it's actually okay. Still got the same fucking 5 voice actors. God damn. But you know, the quality was okay, but the one voice that I said I ain't watching this shit dub was Orga. Man, they got the wrong dude to play Orga in English, bro. They need to fucking stop. Like, that dude should never. Man, that was a terrible choice. I mean, the vibe of Orga from the dub compared to the sub is totally different. I mean, the Japanese voice actor, he sounds more rugged and mature. I mean, Orga is the character where, like, you almost can't believe that he's still like a teenager. Like, he has like the air, the aura of an adult, and it's partially because of his Japanese voice actor. He sounds like rugged and mature. He has a more deeper, rough voice, and it really fits Orga's character and his role as, you know, their leader. But with the dub, he sound like a little like bitch teenage boy, right? He sound like a little, like, he just sound like a little bitch ass. I mean, I ain't gonna say bitch ass, but that voice does not fit him. It doesn't fit that character because it makes him sound too. It just makes him sound too immature and childlike. And I understand that they're supposed to be, you know, technically still, you know, kids or teenagers or whatever, but I just feel like that voice really takes away, like the roughness, the grit of that character, and that I just had to mention that, man, like, because I always gotta check out the dub and see like how good it is, and it was okay, but they fucked up with the pick for Orga. Like, that was not a good pick. Orga, his character is much better with a more mature, rough, rugged voice than whoever that guy. And I know that guy because I've heard him in like 100 different anime. So, and he just was not a good choice, man. I mean, man, they really need to expand their talent, dude. For real, what is it? Some type of union? I gotta make a fucking episode about dubs and subs and just investigate this shit or something, because this shit is weird, man. Like, out of all the geeks in America, we don't have more guys like doing voices for anime. Like, what the fuck? I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I just had to mention that now. Let's talk about the score. Now, the story, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've watched several Gundam series, and one of the things about Gundam that I was saying is that because Gundam is really heavy on, well, I ain't going to say heavy, but, well, I was maybe moderately heavy on like the drama, political intrigue, the conflict between warring factions, and that sort of thing. Like it's more deep than just mechs going to war and blowing each other up. Like it really goes into depth as far as like the relationships between members of the opposing forces or the forces of the protagonist or whatnot. Like really taking time to expand upon the actual setting. Like there's a lot of exposition in Gundam, like explaining like what's going on as far as like different colonies or different groups, and any type of like discourse, or just basically just story shit, right? But it's not always interesting. Like I've seen Gundams where like I'll be watching it and I just zone the fuck out. Cause I would like, and I wouldn't even call it boring, but just like not engaging. Like whatever is between boring and exciting, that's how I felt about a lot of like the actual Gundam stories, cause it's like, even with the Gundams that I really liked, I liked it more because of the more like the actual like rivalries between the protagonist group and the antagonist group, where like just waiting to see like the next big battle and who would come out on top. That's what I really liked about Gundam. And some of the more like plot elements of it just kind of went over my head. I'm not even like there is just like out of all the Gundams I watched, I could not explain the story or the plot to a lot of them. I just know it was Earth Federation versus Zeon, and some type of remix of that. That's typically what it is. But with this, I feel like this Gundam has one of the best stories out of all of them. At least as far as like, being good enough to where I was able to. Now, maybe it's my fault for being somewhat of a brainlet, but this one I was able to follow more closely and understand, and I found it more engaging than some of the plots of other Gundam series. That's why I give it a 3.5 out of 5. But really, I think the strength of it though, it's still kind of what I mentioned earlier about how I'm more interested about the rivalries and the battles and seeing who would come. Like this Gundam, like I was addicted to watching it. Like that, to me, that's always the best sign. Like when I can't, like when I'm just loading up episode after episode after episode, not taking like a week long or 2 week long break because I done forgot about it and lost interest, or, taking 4chan breaks. This one kept me engaged. Like when I was watching at least like 4 or 5 episodes really at a time. And then there were moments where I watched like almost like 8 to 10 in a day. Like at least 2 times where I watched like 10 episodes in a day. Like I was really into this one. And I think that's off the strength of the story. Story is actually pretty good. Action, I give it a 4 out of 5. I was really impressed with the action sequences in this. I mean, of course, it was beautifully animated. And the animation was fluid, and but also that, like I said, it wasn't just straightforward, just explosions and shooting, and it like there was a lot of like strategy in the battles that took place in this Gundam. And that was another thing that I appreciated, man. It was of course the big mech battles and cutting mechs in half and watching them explode and all that was cool, but there was a good deal of actual like strategy and tactics being used by both sides of from Tekadon to their enemies and Galahorn and all that. It was actually like some moments where it was like, oh, that was actually a pretty good idea, or that was risky, but hey, it worked out and it was interesting. It wasn't just mindless action. It was actually like you could tell they put some thought into it. But even when it was just like a straightforward one-on-one duel, like it was the way that it was animated. It was just animated very well, and the fight choreography was good as well. And I can only imagine how difficult it is though to animate this shit. I mean, that's why I really give them credit, because just imagine drawing like frame after frame after frame of a fucking Gundam, and it's got all these like different parts and plates and gadgets and oh man, like really impressive job though. But yeah, the action was definitely the strong point of this show. Those space battles and the ground battles and the mobile suit battles, and then of course it even had like shootouts and shit. I mean, yeah, action packed for real and done very well. Animation, I give it a 3.5. Like I said, it was beautifully animated. The animation was very consistent. About what you could expect from high production popular series like Gundam. Animation, it was good. Now, the music, I give it a 3 out of 5. I actually went and listened to the OST again, just to kind of, really critique it and see how good it was. But even while I was watching it, I was like, yo, there's some good tracks in this shit. Like, and when I went to go listen to the OST, there were actually like a few songs that I had to download, like Inner Fury and Defenders of the Defenders of the Wild or Defenders of the Desert. And I like the opening song. What was it? We Are Survivors and Raise Your Flag, and the last ending song. So yeah, the OST for this is actually good as well. And I always know it when I notice it when I'm watching it. Like that's the best. Like when you watching it and it's like, oh, I gotta download. I gotta find that song. That was kind of tight. Okay, now comedy 1 out of 5. But that's not really a problem because it's not really a comedy anime to begin with. But of course, there's always little little fun moments here and there, but nothing really like to laugh out loud at. And Ichi, a 2 out of 5 because of Nazi, Turban, and his fucking harem. Oh man, his main chick, she had the big ass and the big titties and shit. Oh yeah, it does get like a little point for Ichi. And also, I mean, straight up, man, like, I mean, I might as well say it. Mika had a baby in this shit. Like the girl was like, "You want to have a baby?" He was like, "Sure." So there were a couple like sexual themes there. So I had to give like a 2 out of 5. But overall, I give Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans a resounding 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this. The ending, the ending was bittersweet, but the overall ride, man, I loved it. I loved the main characters. The action was great. The story was engaging and kept me interested all throughout. I love how even towards the end, you can even sort of like, you can respect the antagonist in this. You sort of realize, like, they're not, like I said, it's not like this black and white thing where they're just obviously evil. Like, they have their own, really, most of them are just people. You know, just like the members of Tekadon, they're just people of a different faction and sort of just doing what they feel like they have to do. And they have their own motivations and things that they and things like that. But I like how, you know, no one in this is really, well, there are, I mean, there are like some legitimate assholes, but the main antagonists in this, you know, are even themselves kind of likable, and you understand why they made the decisions that they do, you know? I mean, and really, most of the bad, like the really truly bad guys in this are neutral. It's not really the bad guys aren't really Tekadon or Gallahorn. It's really the people in between, like, you know, their superiors at CGS before they took it over, and the son of the leader of Taywaz or whatever, like he was another asshole, and the mercenary group that they ran into, it was crazy. Like really, the worst people in this were, you know, not really on with Gallahorn. It was, you know, a lot of the neutral people, the people that was really associated with either one. But that was another thing that I thought was just good about it, man. It was just, man, just it was great. Yeah. Anything else? No, I think that's about it. I think I'm gonna cut it right there. I really enjoyed this. Oh man, I gotta be honest, man. This has me wanting to watch more Gundam, but you know, I don't want like my next review to be like another Gundam series. But man, it's really, man, like this has reawakened my interest in Gundam. I might, you know, I never watched Gundam Wing. I mean, oh, maybe that's next, or maybe Gundam Unicorn. Isn't that one? I don't know. Well, anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Excuse me. And I'll be back with another awesome anime review. And Chad Marco, out of here.